What's up, Prosperity Nation? Let me begin with this statement. The story of your life is not over. The story of your life is just beginning for many of you. And I mean, some of you young people who are only 50 or 60 or 70, that your life is just begin. There are more chapters to write. And that's what we're going to explore today. But also, it's really important to understand when I make that statement, there are more chapters to write. There's a couple different ways you can process that information. Way number one is to say, okay, thank God it's not over because I'm not rich yet. I'm not healthy yet. I'm not happy yet. You know, there's still time. Randy is giving me hope. Or there's the other way to say, well, yeah, but I'm killing it. I'm balling right now. I'm at the top of my game. I don't need to worry about more time. And I think either one is a mistake, right? If we did this, I don't know, 6 months ago, 1 year ago, Harvey Weinstein probably thought he was at the top of his game. Bill Cosby probably thought he was at the top of his game, right? Some of you may be in an amazing space right now, but you're in danger of losing it because you're not mindful about creating your future, mindful about creating a prosperous life. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how to reverse engineer a prosperous life. So good morning from Miami, good afternoon, good evening, wherever else you are in the world. If you would, please check in and say hey in the comments and just let us know where you're watching from. And call a friend, WhatsApp a friend, text a friend, shout out to somebody in the other room and tell them, get in here. We're going to talk about prosperity. This is the good shit. Okay, come in and hear this. Because we count on you guys getting out the word on this. And welcome to you guys who are listening afterward on the Power Prosperity podcast or the Prosperity TV YouTube channel. Same thing if you're watching on the replay, check in. I'm just kind of looking at the room. I see we've got Jorge y Jose y Paula, my co-creators and Magnificent, who kind of take care of the room for me. Michael and Martina in Czech Republic, who are loyal devotees of the show and working on Czech subtitles on the YouTube channel. So thank you for that. I see we got Jedi Bob Berg in the house and everywhere. We got people just everywhere. So good, welcome. And remember, if you want to share this, Jorge, would you type in the live stream page? It's randygage.com/prosperity-live stream. If you want to share with a friend now or text and tell them, that would be the link to give them. And it's got the details of the show and also for the replays. So let's begin here. You created your life. Now, if your life is not where you want it to be in este momento, you're probably not liking when I say that. Because for most people, they are very quick to take credit for when things go well in their life, and they're very quick to deflect blame when things aren't going their way in their life. I, of course, wouldn't know anything about that. Of course I do. You know, we all do that, right? We say, well, okay, but it's not my fault. The economy, it's not my fault. The president, it's not my fault. The company, it's not my fault. My ex-wife. We just, failure is an orphan, right? So we But here's the thing I want you to understand. I get that random things can happen, and they happen to all of us. And a perfect example is the pandemic. Okay, this happened to all of us. Nobody on here created the coronavirus 19 pandemic and all of the ripple effects that it has had on the world. It happened. It happened to all of us. Just like there are earthquakes and tsunamis and tornadoes and pestilence and famines and war and things that we don't create, right? And even random things. There could be a sinkhole under your driveway that swallows up your brand new Bentley Continental GT, and you had no control over that. Okay, I get that. But here's the premise we have to begin with if you want to get something out of this lesson. You have to accept that there are random circumstances, but there are no random lives. We don't get to the jail cell. I didn't get to a jail cell at 15 years old by chance, by circumstance. I didn't get to being an addict by circumstance, by accident, by chance. We create our lives. We are co-creators. You can use whatever labels you want. You could say you're a co-creator with God. You're a co-creator with the universe. You're a co-creator with nature, with your other brothers and sisters here in humankind. But we're all co-creators. And for you to have the ability to manifest a prosperous life, you have to accept responsibility as a co-creator. You can't get out of this by claiming destiny or fate or chance or luck. You have to buy the premise. Okay, random events happen to me, but my life is not random. So just give me a thumbs up, a hey, a yo in the comments, or wave on the screen. Let me know you're with me. All right, that's what we're going to base this on. Now, I'm going to give you a basic premise on top of the premise, and that you got here by the philosophy that you adopted in 7 specific areas in your life. And you guys who follow my blog or you've read the Radical Rebirth book, you know the areas I'm talking about. But I'm going to say in each of these areas, you create a philosophy. All right. Somebody type them in the chat if you would. Health, relationships, environment, leverage, spirituality, financial, purpose. Health, relationships, environment, leverage, spirituality, financial, and purpose. Now, understand what I mean when I say you create a philosophy. So I'm going to give you a couple examples. Or probably let me spell it out for each one of the 7. Health. You either have a philosophy where you believe you co-create your health. Say if I eat clean, if I exercise, if I get enough sleep, I got a good chance to be a healthy person. Or you say, well, you just live life and, it's eat Diet Cokes and pizza all day, every day. And when you get diabetes, the doctor's going to give you insulin. And when you get high cholesterol, they'll prescribe a statin drug. And, I just keep getting enough medicines. And, then one day they have to amputate my leg from diabetes. But that's the way it is. It's fate. It was my destiny. I was born with big bones. I was born with bad genes, right? And again, random things happen. You really might be somebody who never smoked a cigarette your entire life and you got a lung cancer tumor. You might have been born without your arms, or you might have been born without your leg. I get it. There are random things that happen to all of us that we did not control. But overall, again, health is the example of this. Do you see yourself as a co-creator, or do you see yourself as a spectator? Because if you see yourself as a spectator, which is what most of us like to do, then we can be a victim. Because we can say, it just happened to me. I was born with bad genes, and my mother had bad heart, and my father had a bad heart, and I had 4 strokes, and so that's a philosophy. Relationships, you adopt a philosophy. And as you know, I talk a lot about programming, right? So if you grew up and your parents fought like cat and dog all the time, that created a belief about relationships. So you probably created a philosophy of what you thought relationships should look like. Is that stormy, or is that harmonious? Environment, I mentioned, in terms of not environmental climate change or whatever. I'm talking about the environment that you're in. I grew up in the environment of Madison, Wisconsin, where at this exact moment in the space-time continuum, it's probably about 12 degrees Fahrenheit. But I'm not in 12 degrees Fahrenheit because I had a philosophy about my environment, which is I want to live someplace tropical and balmy with beautiful views and oceans and palm trees and mangoes and guava and cafe cubano. And so I moved to Miami at a very young age by myself as a teenager, right? But I have a philosophy. If you come to my home, you see I have beautiful flowers behind me. I have spectacular artwork in my home. I have a beautiful view of Biscayne Bay behind the computer in front of me here. I keep my home harmonious. People, I don't know, it's very common. People come to my house the first time and they're like, does anybody live here? Like, what do you mean? It's like, it's so perfect. There's no clothes laying around. There's no towels on the floor. The kitchen isn't dirty. There's no dishes in the sink. I'm like, I don't like to live in a disharmony surroundings. I like my environment around me to be harmonious. I paid, God, what was the difference? I think there was a difference of like $100,000 between this apartment that I bought, my penthouse, versus one that was like 3 floors down. And what's the difference? Because I'm the top floor. Now, I didn't buy the top floor because I wanted the status signaling of being on the top floor. I bought this one because the ceiling is like 12 or 13 feet high, right? It's because it's the top floor, they made it bigger. So I have bigger floor to ceiling windows, and it's just more space. So to me, it just creates more harmony in my environment, that I don't feel closed in. If you've ever gone to a cheap Motel 6 or some place where they have a 8-foot ceiling, not even a 10-foot ceiling, but an 8-foot, you just feel closed in, right? So I choose a harmonious environment. So some of you, that might be moving where you live. Some of it might just be, you know what? I need to clean off my desk. I need to clean out the junk drawer. I need to clean the refrigerator, or I need to clean out my closet because the space around me is not harmonious. Your environment. Leverage. This is a big one from the how much prosperity you can manifest in the financial arena, because there's a very simple philosophy here. Do you work for money, or does money work for you? Which of those is your philosophy? Spirituality. It isn't about whether you believe in God or not. It isn't really even about if you practice religion or not. It's about what's your philosophy about spirituality. Do you see yourself as, like, one of the Catholic tenets is that you're born in original sin. And I find that an incredibly limiting belief to adopt, that I think would be a really negative philosophy to have in life. So I don't choose to believe that I was born in original sin and I need redemption to get out of it. I choose to believe that I was born in original blessing, and that when I stay true to my roots, when I stay true, when I live in harmony with the force that created me, I'm blessed, right? That's a philosophy. And we could be talking about reincarnation, or, if you're believe that you won't reach enlightenment until your 200th lifetime and you're only on lifetime 100, number 40, right? You're probably going to self-sabotage yourself, because you've adopted a philosophy that's very negative, meaning it's limiting, because you believe you're not meant to reach enlightenment at this lifetime, so you don't try. So the goals you set for yourself, the actions that you take, these won't lead you toward an enlightened life. Financial, this is where, and we're going to go back to, you're going to hear me talk about co-creation a lot. This is where finances is another place where it comes into play. I was born in a poor family. You could trace my entire family back to the Mayflower, whoever came over from my family on the Mayflower from England. Nobody had money. Nobody had ever gone to college. There were no successful, wealthy people in my family, tracing back generation upon generation upon generation. And that's true for a lot of you who are watching this today, right? You come from the same stock that I did. You don't come from money, right? But some people adopt that philosophy that they are a poor person, and they live with poverty consciousness. I chose not to adopt the philosophy that I was a victim of poverty. I chose to adopt the philosophy that I'm a co-creator in building my wealth. So you see, each of these, it's the philosophy that we choose. And then purpose, right? There's a lot of talk about purpose. There's thousands of books that have been written about purpose, thousands of televangelists and keynote speakers and life coaches and living gurus and everybody talking about purpose. To me, purpose is really simple. I break it down to success versus significance. My purpose in life for a long time was to make money. My purpose was to get rich. My purpose was to be successful. I wanted to be a New York Times best-selling author. I wanted to be a multi-millionaire. I wanted to be inducted into halls of fame. I wanted things that delineated success to me or other people. But once I manifested those things, I recognized I don't really care that much about the success stuff. I'm looking for significance. I want to know that the work I do matters, that what I'm doing makes a difference. And that's kind of the philosophy that led me to this prosperity ministry that you guys are participating in right now. I feel like that it allows me to contribute to the planet, to the universe in a significant way, that I'm creating significance because I'm waking up this prosperity truth in millions of people around the world, right? So that's how I look at purpose, right? You can look at purpose as I want to get a BMW or I want to make 250,000 a year. I don't think that stuff is really purpose. So I think we could simplify it by saying, okay, what matters to you? And I get when you're broke. I was broke for 30 years, right? So I know what it is to be broke. And I know what it is to aspire not to be broke. And that's great. I want everybody on this ministry to aspire not to be broke. I want everyone to aspire to be healthy, happy, harmonious, and prosperous in all areas of their life. But I think you'll realize, hey, it's not about success. It's about significance. It's about the children that I'm leaving behind and what they're able to do for the world. That it's about the body of work that I left behind. All right, so let's move to the next level on all this. So those are the 7 areas where I believe you create philosophies, and those philosophies determine what kind of life you're going to manifest for yourself. But let's look at how the process works unknowingly for most people. Meaning this happens and they're not even aware that this has been happening to them. It starts with, we have programming creates beliefs. Beliefs create philosophies that we just talked about. How did you get what, look at those 7 areas, think about what your philosophy is in each of those areas, and then ask yourself, well, what caused me to develop those philosophies? And I'm going to say it was the programming that you got. That programming created certain beliefs about the world around you. And because you had those beliefs, they created a philosophy. And then that philosophy develops into a vision, the vision you have for your life. Next, this vision determines your daily habits. And then, boom, your daily habits determine your life. Your daily habits determine your destiny. So we like to say, okay, I create my own destiny. Man creates his destiny. No, you actually, you create your daily habits, and then your daily habits create your life. And it all starts with those core foundational beliefs. So let's talk about where the breakthroughs live. Let me get a sip of my green tea. You all better take a sip of coffee, some tea, snort your aguardiente cristal, whatever. This is important, what we're talking about next. There are 2 seminal moments where the breakthrough of how you create a prosperous life happens. And they're both moments of self-awareness. And this goes back, by the way, why I list environment as one of those things that I think is really important, because there is a lot of research. Remember, if you guys were here for the very first Prosperity live stream we did on January 2nd, I believe it was, and they're all archived at that Prosperity live stream page. If you missed one and you want to go watch the replay, there we put up the replay there every Monday. So the very first one, I talked about the link between that I think nobody gets, the link between the level of your self-esteem and the prosperity that you manifest in life, and how critical this is. Here's the thing. There's a lot of research that's showing that a great deal of your formative years, your self-esteem, your self-conditioning happens at birth. If you're a natural childbirth or a cesarean, the music that might or might not be playing in the operating room, the conversation happening with the doctors and the nurses, what happens when you're struggling to take your first breath? Are you quickly handed to the arms of your mother and you're created this physical bond of safety and security? Or were you born premature and then you were put in a NICU, neonatal ICU And there was nobody, now there's research. So they actually ask volunteers to go into neonatal units if the parents aren't able to, and just to hold, reach in through the plastic glove or whatever and hold hands with the babies because of the physical bonding, the sense of security that happens. And so there's so much breakthrough research happening on how the way you were delivered happens, and then your first year or two, right? We just condition. Okay, we cry and somebody holds our hand. We cry and they pick us up. We cry and they feed us milk. We cry and they give us food. And when you cry and nobody comes, when you cry and nobody happens, that affects you. And so your childbirth, your childhood, okay, there's a difference. If you're an orphan living in the streets of Mumbai versus you were born in Indianapolis and you grew up watching Power Rangers in your mom's living room, there's a huge, huge difference. So the question people are going to ask, and I'm trying to just keep an eye on the, okay. So who put the Zachary? Okay. Yeah. So he's got a link about generational genius video. Okay. I love it, Zachary. I love it. Yeah. So some of you are going to say, yeah, but that was me. I was an orphan, or that's me. I was abandoned, or yeah, that's me. My mom was a crack addict, or yes, my parents divorced and I didn't get that love. I didn't get that nurturing. I get it. So you're saying, hey, how do I go back and recreate that? And the answer is you can't. Okay. Because you're just not able to. Oh, we've got our porn stars are back again. So my moderators, keep an eye on that. I love creating a platform that everybody can. So we're looking, he's got the label Charlie Johnson for my moderators who want to check it, or anyone who's looking for, salacious viewing for your dining, dancing pleasure. You can't go back and recreate the childbirth. You can't go back and recreate your childhood. We've got Rena Romano on here, right? She works with people who've been sexually abused. They can't go back and undo what happened, right? None of us can. So it's about recognizing, okay, and that's why I say this is really, really important. There are two moments of self-awareness, and that's where the breakthroughs live. So the first moment of awareness for breakthrough is the connection between, when you make the connection between thought and circumstance. Of course, this is the basis of James Allen book, As a Man Thinketh, the connection between thought and circumstance. But what I'm telling you, the breakthrough for you is when you make that connection and become aware of it, right? So if you're so maybe you're 20 years old and somebody gave you As a Man Thinketh and you read it, and that was when you had your breakthrough. Maybe you were 40 years old. Maybe nobody ever told you about the book. Nobody ever told you about the concept until 60 seconds ago when I brought it up. Okay, that's your moment. Okay, you reckon, okay, there's a connection between thought and circumstance. And that's what I mean when I say it's not, there is no random life. Random things happen, but there are no random lives. Your lives are the result of your life is the result of the thoughts you give precedence to. So that's the big moment of awareness, number one. The second big moment of awareness is when you become self-aware, when you recognize the role of programming on the thoughts you have. So the first stage is, okay, I recognize there's a connection between the thoughts I give precedence to and the circumstances, the results that I create, the life that I create. And the second part of that is, now I recognize the role of programming, which creates those thoughts. And again, that breakthrough moment of awareness might have just happened to you now. You literally could have been kicking around on this planet for 20 years or 40 years or 55 years, and nobody ever told you this crazy concept before until this moment. And if that's true, don't beat yourself up because you're just figuring this out at 40 years old or 50 years old. As soon as we finish this Zoom meeting, I want you to call the bakery and buy a cake and put some candles on it and light the candles and blow them out and celebrate, because today is the day you were born. Today is your birthday, because you just realized, okay, there's a connection between the thoughts I have and the life that I create. Oh, holding up the radical rebirth. Thank you. Agnes is doing that. And hey, there's a connection between the programming that I allow to influence me and the thoughts that I create. Again, if you just figured this out now, believe me, this is your birthday. This is the moment you were born. This is the breakthrough moment of awareness, because now you can reverse engineer the process. So you recognize, yes, I had a difficult birth. Or yes, my parents gave me up for adoption. Or yes, I was raised in a crack house. Yes, I was the victim of childhood sexual abuse or physical abuse, mental abuse. It doesn't matter. You can recognize, okay, I live in that truth. I know that happened. But Randy is telling me I still have more chapters to write. This is not the end of my story. I can create, and this is why I wrote Radical Rebirth. And I hope everybody who's following this ministry, I'm beseeching you to read that book and really own what I'm teaching you in that book, that you can create a new life. Okay, who's that? Holding up their signed copy. Who is that? Scott, looks like. Scott McAvoy got his personally autographed copy. Where do you live, Scott? Type in the chat, because some people, and that's, by the way, I asked people last week to share reviews on Amazon. A lot of people tell me, I haven't even got it yet. I'm in Czech Republic, or okay, you're in Rhode Island. That's why. So you got a little quicker. A lot of the overseas people, for whatever reason, they haven't got it yet. But you can reverse engineer the process and create a prosperous life. So now let's talk about how this happens. Let me see time-wise how we're doing. Okay, good. Reverse engineering the process. It begins by decide who you want to become. Notice I didn't say decide how much money you need to make, decide how many New York Times bestsellers you want to write, decide how many feet long you want your yacht to be. Notice I didn't say any of those things. I said, decide who you want to become. And then it's simple, but very profound. Choose programming that fosters that. Decide who you want to become and then choose programming that fosters that. So go back to the examples I gave you, 7 areas that you create philosophy in. So let's say you say, wow, the leverage area, I'm working for money. I don't have money to work for me. Or financial, I'm not financially literate. I haven't learned how to create wealth. I haven't learned how to grow my net worth. I don't understand mortgages and investments and savings and trading, stock trading, or any of that stuff. I'm ignorant in those areas. What do? Well, you come here every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. And you say, okay, Randy's got a prosperity live stream every week, every Saturday at 10 a.m. that I can become financially literate in. I can learn about the principles of prosperity, free enterprise, and generosity. The environment, you think about that and you say, well, maybe I have lived in International Falls, wherever is that, Minnesota or North Dakota or wherever it is, where it gets like 80 below zero wind chill factor. And you say, maybe I lived here my whole life and I just never thought about it because my parents lived here and my grandparents lived here and my great grandparents lived here. But maybe I should move to California, or maybe I should move to Thailand, or maybe I should go to Australia. Maybe you just need to mindfully think about that. Maybe you need to just mindfully look around and say, well, of course I feel anxious all the time because I'm surrounded with clutter. I'm surrounded with busyness. I'm surrounded with white noise. I need to purify my environment some. I need to create a harmonious environment so I create harmony in my mind. Maybe it's just health, and you realize, hey, I've had a really bad philosophy about health. I've had the philosophy of most people, which is, every 10 years, every decade you get older, you add another 5 pounds in weight and another 2 prescriptions. And then by the time you're 60, you're 45 pounds overweight and you take 10 or 12 or 15 prescriptions every day. Maybe I need to reprogram that. What's the programming that I can expose myself to that will teach me about how to eat clean? What's the programming I can expose myself to that will teach me how to integrate exercise, how to sleep better, all of those things. It's choosing the source of your programming mindfully. And you can do that in all 7 of those areas. So now let's look at how this works process-wise. So we put the new program, this is how we reverse engineer the process, okay? We put the new programming in place. This programming develops new philosophies, which creates a new vision. And the new vision creates new daily habits. And here's the thing, really important, write this down, anchor this in your mind. These new daily habits stick because you know why you're doing them, right? If people just say, you should exercise, you should get enough sleep, you should eat that, have this protein, have that, take these chain triglycerides, you get a bunch of health advice, you're like, what does that mean to me? But when you really go back and you reverse engineer the process and you create the programming mindfully, then what happens is, if you have the vision that you are going to be able to fly without an airplane, that you can jump out your window on the 15th floor and fly, hopefully you will never do that, because even though you have that vision, I really can't fly. There is this thing called gravity, and it's going to bring me to the ground, and that would cripple me or kill me. So I don't want to do that, right? If a vision is not believable in your mind, you will never create daily habits that bring it into fruition. But if the vision is believable to you, you'll create habits that do that. And this is why the Wright brothers had the daily habits they had. This is why Elon Musk had the daily habits he has. Because he says, okay, if I think we need to be a multiplanetary species, I think we're going to need to colonize Mars. How are we going to get people to Mars? We're going to need to build rockets. We're going to need to build rockets that are capable of taking people to Mars and coming back and landing safely. And how do we do that? And he studied the things he needed to study. He worked on the things he needed to work on that is allowing SpaceX to have the progress that it's having right now. And that's no different than you deciding you're going to lose 30 pounds, or you deciding that you're going to become knowledgeable about classical music, or studying philosophy, or learning to sing opera, or any endeavor that you might have for yourself. If you believe there's a chance, you'll create the daily habits, because your subconscious mind is going to do that for you. So it's going to make you create those daily habits. And then when you do create the daily habits, you stick with them because you know why you're doing them. And you've understood the connection between thought and circumstance, and the connection between programming and thought, and then what happens afterward. So that's how you create a radical rebirth. That's how you write your new chapters. So you recognize the book is not over. I have more chapters to write in this book. All right, we're going to take up the love offering, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you your assignments on how you make this happen. So for the love offering, for anybody who's new here for the first time, and it looks like we have a lot of new people, welcome. We are so delighted to see you. This is a for-profit prosperity ministry that I do. It's not a church. It's not a religion. It's not a nonprofit. I'm trying to model the principles I teach every week. So right now we do a service, and I'm testing this and putting it out to the universe and seeing if you support it. And if the universe wants to see this, it will continue. And that's going to be totally up to the people who are listening to the sound of my voice right now, or watching me on video right now, whether live or on replay. If you support the work and spread the word, we'll continue. And right now we're doing these every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern US time, and just kind of testing to see how that works out. Instead of saying, okay, this is a seminar and it costs $297, or it's a video membership and it's $77, I'm saying you pay what it's worth to you. If you find it helpful, support the work. Because this was kind of the result of me realizing, okay, I want to help everybody. My mission is getting this message out to youth, to people who were where I was, the teenage alcoholics, the teenage drug addicts, the teenage gang members, the teenagers at risk, the teenagers in jail like I was, to show them, to teach them the principles of free enterprise. And I get they don't have $297 to go to a course, or $77 to watch a thing every Saturday. So I said, I'm putting this out on a love offering basis, and you pay whatever you would like to pay. So Michael and Martina there in Czech Republic, they're here every week. I know my phone is going to beep. They're there every week supporting the show. And I say, hey, and it doesn't matter. I'm happy when I see $1 donations, when I see $5, when I see $10. I get a lot of those. I love it, because it just shows me, even if you say, hey, I'm really struggling right now, but I can do $1 or I can do $5, because I want Randy to see I believe in the work, I believe in myself. And if that allows this to continue for other people who can't pay even $5 or can't pay even $1, this will help keep the broadcast going, and so that those people get it. And if you can't even send $1, I have no problem with that. I'm here for you. But I ask that you share the show. That's your tithe. That's your admission. That's your love offering. That Monday, when the replay comes out, you tell everybody in your world about it. And by the way, Agnes Fitzgerald, Peter Horrell up in Canada, Rena Romano, who I mentioned, Jorge Melendez. These are all people who just share the hell out of this all week. I noticed just that, the replays were up and you were going crazy telling people about it. So thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So here's the love offering. Do I have it here somewhere? Yes. And we're sending the energy. If you think about whatever you want to contribute, we're going to send the energy through the internet process. And oh, by the way, okay, so where to do that is randygage.com/go. If someone would type that in the comments, randygage.com/go. So if you're listening on the podcast or watching a YouTube replay, that's where you can make a payment for whatever you want to do to support the work. And this offering statement is on that page. So if you want to affirm it with me, prosperity begins with me. Holding this seed offering in my hand or my heart, I send it forth as a vessel of hope, healing, and highest good, knowing it blesses myself, the recipient, and the universe around us. And so it is. All right. So again, thanks for all your support. Please keep getting the word out. So let's talk about your assignments, practical application, how you make this happen. Assignment number 1 is I want you to just determine when your 2 moments of awareness were. When did they happen? In other words, when did you first learn, wow, there's a connection between thought and circumstance? So maybe you were 16 years old and your guidance counselor gave you As a Man Thinketh from James Allen. And that was when it was. So think about it. Or maybe you had it 20 minutes ago on this broadcast. Okay, but just know, when did you become self-aware in that regard? And then, of course, the second one, which is, okay, when did I become aware that my programming actually helps mold my thoughts? Because, you're watching, you're on Clubhouse listening to somebody talk, and they say, wow, there's a amazing new stock out called Desktop Metal. And I think this is a company they're going to do really, your programming is going to determine to say, well, if they're talking about it on Clubhouse, I'm sure everybody knows about it. So the deal is already done. And I was too late. I missed because I don't have connections. Your programming determines if you had that reaction, or your reaction says, wow, that sounds intriguing. I'm going to go research that company. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to see what they do. I'm going to mindfully consider, is this a good investment that fits in my portfolio with my goals, right? You see, I'm not giving investment advice. I'm not telling anyone to buy or sell anything. I'm saying the thought process that you would have if you heard about an investment opportunity, that would be determined by the programming that you had. So when did you reach that level of self-awareness? This is huge, people. I mean, I really equate it. People like Ray Kurzweil and really brilliant futurists talk about the singularity, which is when artificial intelligence surpasses all acquired human knowledge and develops awareness. And we have, which we already have, by the way, is machine learning, where a machine can, I'm using words words are difficult to employ here for machines and software and algorithms when we're attributing them human characteristics, but I'm going to use them because that's all I have to work with. You know, it's only words. You know, if we had the Bee Gees here, they would tell us that they would sing that. You see, that's why Barry Gibb sings and I don't. Right? It's only words, but the words would be deduce. You know, a machine learning can deduce an assumption and then create another assumption. That's really how algorithms are created. Oh, Jorge clicked on this link, so he likes this political viewpoint. So if we give him another link a little deeper down the the rabbit hole, he's going to click on that one, and that will keep him on the site longer. This kind of stuff is already happening, right? But I think just as there's the singularity when machine learning reaches consciousness, let's say, I think for us humans, us animals like humans, it's when we get this self-awareness to know, okay, there's a connection between thought and circumstance, and I have a co-creator ability to create a certain category of thoughts. This is deep, right? So those two things. So this week's assignment number one is to determine when those moments of awareness were, okay? And again, it could be that they were just now as you were watching this broadcast. And if so, great, go get a birthday cake because your life is really just beginning to get interesting. And then here's assignment number two. Evaluate your philosophy in each of the 7 areas I gave you earlier. And that's why I asked people to write it in the chat, and you can go back and watch the replay. And just so if somebody, because the replay won't be out till Monday, I'm going to run through them again. So write it quick if you didn't write them earlier, and you need to know. The 7 areas are health, number 1, health. Relationships, number 2, relationships. Environment, number 3, environment. Leverage, number 4, leverage. Spirituality, number 5, spirituality. Número 6, financial. Número 7, purpose. Purpose is number 7. Evaluate your philosophy in each of those 7 areas, and then ask yourself, is that philosophy serving me, or do I need to develop a new philosophy? And when I say this is homework, I mean this is homework, because you really should spend an hour or two on this minimum after I say goodbye. At some point, you need to block off some time this week and say, okay, I'm going to really question myself. And again, replay will be up Monday. It'll be up early Monday morning on the podcast, Power Prosperity Podcast, and it's usually up by the end of the day on Prosperity TV, the YouTube channel. And go back to the examples I give, like the example of health, or the example of finance, or the example of leverage, and see, wow, do I have a philosophy that's holding me back in this area? Or is my philosophy empowering me in that area? And then number 3, really important, decide on new sources of programming where needed. So if you say, okay, I have a terrible philosophy about money. I don't know anything about investments. I don't know anything about how to grow wealth. I don't know how to read a P&L statement. I don't know how to read a bank statement. I don't know how to balance a checkbook. Okay, so I'm going to find sources of programming. I'm going to Ramit, R-A-M-I-T is his first name. He's got a book called I Will Make You Rich. It's a horrible, cheesy, sleazy sounding title, but it's good financial advice. Susie Orsman, how do you say her name? And then what's the guy? Who's the guy? Somebody who does the finance stuff. He's really had a lot of books. Somebody help me out here. This Dave Ramsey. Thank you. Yeah, Dave Ramsey. So maybe you say, okay, that, I know I need to re-engineer my philosophy about finances. So here's the thing. And by the way, if finances are one of your area, go and read the post on my blog called Beat Your Burn Rate. Somebody, would you please type that in? Beat your burn rate. Start there if finances are one of your things. So then decide the new sources of programming, knowing that they're going to create the thoughts and the thoughts are going to create the circumstances. And just be mindful about it. And final assignment number 4 is share the replays. Look for, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, wherever. I post the replays every Monday. Please share them with the world, because that's how prosperity is circulated. All right, next week's lesson is going to be sexy. I mean, really sexy, because the topic is destination forgiveness. And we're going to look at the forgiveness law of prosperity and how that applies into manifesting a prosperous life. So let's affirm. We celebrate the following truth. We have prosperity because we choose to accept it. We circulate prosperity joyfully, lovingly, and gratefully. We become prosperity by generous daily living. Prosperity surrounds us everywhere in the universe, yet we know it begins with us. All right. Thank you all for being with me this week. Just appreciate it. Love all the comments. I know we have the crazy people doing the spam and the trolls and the porn, but hey, that's what happens when you get popular. Remember this: the story of your life is not over. There are more chapters to write. And Jorge and Jose do a Spanish prosperity thing. The details are in the chat. Or go to their Facebook page, follow that Facebook page. And for you guys who have friends in LATAM who don't speak English, or Spain who don't speak English, they're doing kind of the following week, they do this celebration service in prosperity. All right. Thanks, everybody. Peace, love, and unicorns.